What is going on here with the log jam on the judges and U.S. attorneys, and what should we do about it?
Look, we've got a confirmation backlog in the Senate. President Trump has sent hundreds of nominees over. We currently have a Senate confirmation backlog of about 150 people. Now, just day before yesterday, that number stood at 144. We're now approaching 150. We're adding to that basically every day. The Senate's in session. And if we leave for August recess without meaningfully confronting this, then we're never going to catch up. And the result of that is awful, because here's what happens. Remember, the deep state bureaucrats, the career civil servant bureaucrats, are overwhelmingly leftist. They're overwhelmingly Democratic. So this is different than if the Democrats were in power and Republicans were delaying them. When that happens and a Democrat nominee doesn't get through, well, they still have a Democrat, a liberal Democrat in most cases, running the show in whatever executive branch agency they're putting them in, because that's what the deep state bureaucrats are. But when it's Republicans, we're surrendering to the other party. We can't let that happen. Here's the thing. We've been blaming the Dems, and appropriately so. They've been delaying. But we have to remember, this is what minority parties have been doing in the Senate, more or less, since Harry Reid nuked the executive filibuster back in November of 2013. This is what they do. Now, Democrats do it to a more severe degree. We cooperated more with them than they are with us. But regardless, saying that they're doing it worse doesn't fix the problem. There is only one thing that fixes this problem in the modern Senate, which is the principle of exhaustion. We have to exhaust them into compliance. We have to keep them here until such time as we've cleared the backlog. And we have to make them vote, including at inconvenient times and hours and weeks when they'd much rather be somewhere else. That is the only way to fix it. If we keep them here, keep them voting, we end the backlog. If we don't, we surrender to the deep state and therefore the Democrats.
By the way, let me mention this. The Fed, as we told you was likely going to be the case, has declined to lower interest rates, although there are dissenters from inside of the Fed saying, hey, we should be cutting rates. So just FYI, they have left interest rates unchanged, but that is the literally breaking news as we start the third hour of the program here. Okay, Senator, thanks for coming on. What is, in your mind, the solution? Because I was asking about how recess appointments might be applied. President Trump has not used the recess appointment opportunity. What are the disadvantages associated with doing that in a way that people like me can understand without going into all of the just sort of the labyrinth of all of the different Senate parliamentarian aspects?
Yeah. All right, so the biggest single disadvantage is that a recess appointment can't stay indefinitely. Under the Constitution, the recess appointee can remain in there. In essence, under current interpretations of that clause, they can stay in there. If they're recess appointed now, they could stay in there till the end of next year, till the end of 2026. It's the biggest disadvantage. Okay. But the other reason why President Trump hasn't used that is that more or less for the last decade plus, since at least around 2013, it started a bit before then, the Senate typically has been holding what are called pro forma sessions, even while purporting to go into recess, meaning reconvening every 3 days. One member comes in, gavels out, in order to avoid the technicality of going into recess for constitutional purposes. In other words, these pro forma sessions basically serve one purpose, which is to prevent the President of the United States from making recess appointments. So that's the biggest disadvantage there, is that we haven't made it possible. And that's why I've been saying the best thing for us to do, the only way I believe we're going to end the logjam and the impasse, is for us to make the Democrats and Republicans stay here and cast votes, even when, especially when, it's difficult or inconvenient or members would rather be somewhere else. It's the only surefire way to end this. Now, short of that, if the Senate unwisely decides to recess anyway, then for the love of Pete, we should actually recess and stop holding these pro forma sessions that have as their principal function preventing the President of the United States from exercising the recess appointment power under the Constitution.
It feels like there's a lot of games going on here, Senator Lee, within these rules, and yet the blue slip rule is sacred. Can you give me a little more on this one? Because Trump obviously thinks that enough is enough with the blue slip nonsense.
Yeah, I think that's right. Now, to bring your audience up to speed, the blue slip in the Senate basically does the following. Currently, the way it works is that for a federal district judge, a federal trial court level judge, for a U.S. attorney or a U.S. marshal in somebody's state, the Senate Judiciary Committee has long refused to process a presidential nominee unless or until such time as the two home state senators have signed a document that is historically written out on blue paper. That's why we call it the blue slip, saying, I'm okay with these nominees. Now, the blue slip has been around for many decades. It is not mandated by statute. It's not imposed by rule. It is a custom. It is, moreover, not something that's been carved into stone tablets. It is not an inexorable command, and it has been modified in practice over many years, meaning when one side of the aisle abuses it consistently, it often morphs in order to accommodate that. Now, we've always had the understanding that if you push it too far, like any other privilege, it'll be taken away. I had the understanding in the last administration, for example, when dealing with the Obama administration, I knew that I had to make recommendations to them on district judges, U.S. attorneys, U.S. marshals, and so forth. I had to make my blue slip recommendations to them realistically, and that I wasn't necessarily going to get away with recommending people who were lifelong, well-known, staunch, openly conservative textualist originalists, for example. We just understood that the nominees might be a little bit different than what we would pick, what we would prefer the president pick during a Republican administration. If the Democrats can't accept that, and they consistently refuse to accommodate what are Trump's reasonable minimum expectations in their states, then I suspect that they can, should, and probably will lose their blue slip privileges in many instances.
We're talking to Senator Mike Lee of Utah. New revelations, potentially, according to Fox News, about documents involving Russia collusion that have been found by Kash Patel inside of FBI offices that were supposed to have been destroyed that were not. You, I think, were one of the top contenders to be Attorney General, so you are very, very well versed in the Department of Justice. You have served, I believe, as a judge in your past life experience. You're a guy who's been involved in a lot of these things. What should happen as it pertains to Russia collusion based on the evidence you have seen? Not only what should, what do you think will? What should our audience expect to see, and what should they see in your mind?
Well, most importantly, the facts, the information will need to continue to come out. Remember, for the last 8, 9 years, we have been told a consistent lie. We've been told that by the Democratic apparatus. We've been told that by the mainstream media, also known as the communications arm of the Democratic Party. We've been told lies about Russian collusion. Now, as Jonathan Turley noted on Fox News the other day, there was, in fact, a collusive scandal at the close of 2016 related to Russia, but it just wasn't at all what we were told. There was a scandal there. There was collusion there. But remember, what happened here was that President Obama, according to these recent revelations, went in after the November 2016 election, after President Trump had been elected president of the United States, and directed the United States government officials in the room with him to go out and show, find evidence, develop evidence, manufacture evidence, manipulate evidence, however you want to put it, to demonstrate not if, not whether, but how Russia impacted the outcome of the election and did so in Donald Trump's favor. That simply wasn't true. And in fact, they were messing with evidence. This is a horrific scandal. And based on what we've learned about this already, this is arguably the most significant political scandal in U.S. history. And I'm not even sure what the outcome will be, because we don't have anything else to compare it to. But the most important part of it, there are all kinds of considerations, from statutes of limitations to whatever it takes to get more information out of this, that will have to be taken into account to know exactly who may be charged. But the most important thing is that the American people learn about it, and then we get to the bottom of who knew what and when, and hold them accountable for that.
Senator Lee, we know you have to get out on the floor and get to work. We appreciate you fitting us in to answer these questions we were talking about today. Keep up the good work, and shoot me a text when you want to come on again. Need to talk to the audience.
Will do. Thanks so much.
Senator Mike Lee, great Twitter account at Based Mike Lee, I believe, is the one that is the best to follow out of Utah, and you can go find him there. We appreciate him squeezing us in. Look, if you don't want to have Joe Biden level energy, if you'd like to have Donald Trump level energy, our sponsor Chalk can make that popular. The male vitality stack that will replenish diminished testosterone levels in a few months' time, 20% difference. Buck has seen it in his own life. You've also seen it in your mother-in-law's life. You've got a 3-month-old baby, probably having energy maybe more important now than ever before.
You hit some chalk, and all of a sudden, it's like the house has cleaned itself, my friend. All of the boxes that have to be moved in the garage, Clay, like magic, they're moved because you have so much energy, ferocity, and drive.
There you go. Chalk.com, our buddy Seaton, great company out of Texas, American-based. Go check it out right now. Use my name, Clay. You get a massive discount on any subscription for life. Big-time discount. Go to CHOQ.com. My name, Clay, for a massive discount. You can cancel anytime, no penalties. So why not try it out? Why not put some energy back in your life? Why not put some testosterone back in your life? Be like Trump, not like Biden. Have some energy at chalk.com, code